5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you guys miss us yesterday morning? It was my fault. It's always my fault. Always my fault. You guys, I was extremely tired. And I ended up falling asleep. And because I had a really bad headache. And I came home when we got back from church, I ended up just laying down and I fell asleep and woke up, and all I wanted to do was just lay down because my head was just hurting. And I did not want to do anything, to be honest with you guys. And I just told David, and I said, can we please? I said, I need a rest. And I knew that I had to be at the office, as you guys know that I work here from home. And it's just like, the only days that I really have time to do anything is really on Saturdays to catch up. But then, every other weekend, we get, his daughter, and then his son has been coming every weekend. And it kind of like, there's just so much balancing of so much. And I don't know, I was just tired, guys. I was tired, but I missed you guys. I definitely missed you guys. I got up early and I had to go into the office, and I just told him right now, I'm still really tired, I'll be honest with you guys. I told him, can we just get it done earlier right now? Because I'd like to be at my best so that I can, share with you guys.
Yeah, so we had a good weekend. I spent Saturday with my daughter watching a TV show most of the day. Yesterday we had service, and then yeah.
And then
it was funny because I felt like it was going to be a teaching, but you said it ended up being a sermon.
Yeah, it was. I think it was in between a little bit of both, but it was more of a sermon,
But it's like the subject wasn't like some biblical story or this and that. It was just about how we discern things and how we make our decisions. So that's why I was like, I think it's going to be more of a teaching.
Yeah.
But I mean, from what I heard, people really enjoyed it and got something from it. And you're making me tired. But today I wanted to talk about something that isn't so much a biblical verse, but more of like we were talking about some yesterday, right? Yeah. And it all started yesterday morning because as we were getting ready for our service, I said, you know what? Like throughout this whole lockdown, we've been so busy. Like you guys know, I've been trying to figure out this video thing and, all this stuff that we've been trying to figure out ourselves. Just House of Rest being locked down, not having a building to go to has been a struggle unto itself. So I hadn't really went to see what other churches were doing.
Yeah.
So we were getting ready and I just started looking churches up. Some that I know, some that
friends.
I heard of, some were friends.
Yeah.
And man, I there was so much in the spectrum. One church like didn't even know how to put the camera right, so it was sideways. And that was very humbling to see because you guys know I love this technical stuff, and to see a church, actually it's not even a church I know. It's a church I used to know the pastor, but now it's a whole different pastor now. I don't know, haven't been there in like 3 years. But I saw their service last week, and when you start a video and then you try to turn it, it doesn't flip right.
Yeah.
So, and it was weird because even though I don't have any relation to that church, or not even the pastor now at all, I don't even know who the pastor is now. It was humbling to see because I never want to see that.
Yeah, it was
For-
humbling, and and we kind of looked at each other, and and I was like, man, David, maybe you can reach out. Maybe you
Yeah,
can
because
reach
you thought it
out.
was somebody I knew.
Yeah, and I said, honey, and I said, maybe you should reach out to him and show him. I mean, we're really big on if somebody doesn't know how to do something, or we love to teach and we love to help people. We are not selfish. We love to give a helping hand in any way that we can to other people, and even especially David when it comes to the technical part. I always constantly see him
But
always trying to help people.
but I've been messing up lately. Yesterday's sermon was so choppy, and
Well, because you tried something new,
yeah,
though.
I figured out what it was.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
something
You were
else.
trying to make something better, thinking it was going
Yeah,
to make it better.
yeah, basically. And
Yeah.
so I sat here. My day today was I was working on a project. I was painting, and I was trying to figure out that situation with the video. And I know every week I'm like, oh, I got it. But this time was a huge breakthrough. I think I recorded like 4 different private YouTubes. Like I didn't go live with it. I just recorded it and each one was fine. So and then I purposely messed it up again to see if it would get choppy again, and it got choppy again.
Oh.
So that kind of leads me to believe that I figured that problem out, and now I'm just kind of like trying to sync the mouth. I thought it was the same thing, it being all choppy, and then my voice not matching. Those are 2 different problems. See, this whole time I was treating it like it was one problem.
Oh, okay.
So the choppiness, I fixed that, and I'm trying to zero in on the voice. But anyways. So, we saw some services where some were nice,
Yeah, very nice.
Some were nice. They had it would trip me out because it was their full worship team up there. So I'm like, that looks like more than 10 people. Like besides the cameras, you had the drummer and this and that and the
Yeah,
pastor's
6
wife.
singers. You have
Yeah.
drummer, guitar player, piano player.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, if they're all up there, and there's like 3 different camera angles, and I'm like, and you have pastor, and I'm sure pastor's wife, and I don't know, it just made me think about a lot of other things as well,
Yeah. So then, what happened was, then I came to the realization that, like, for instance, us, we just have one camera. So however the camera's going to be for service, that's all you're going to get, Some I noticed, had 3 cameras. Like even our Pastor Larry, who's the vice president of Grace International, he happens to be in Livermore here. I noticed he has 3 cameras, but they're stationary. So they're obviously just set, and one person probably controls. Mm-hmm. So I noticed, because you could tell because there's no movement. They're just set cameras. But I noticed their thing was pretty nice, And I see his Facebook in the morning where he says, "Oh man, getting ready for service," And I know Pastor Larry's up, and he goes into his empty building, and they have service, Anyways, then I came across a few that were so polished. It looked like I was watching a performance on the Grammys. I mean, amazing camera work. Everything was perfect. And then I sat there and I'm just like, you know what? Because then I kind of forwarded through the announcements, through the sermon, and I was like, Sharon, this is pre-recorded. This is not live. It was like, and it was funny because there was one that was 3 cameras. They were all moving, so that means there was 3 people controlling the cameras. And it would, like, the keyboard player would do a solo, and it'd be like a close-up of his hands, and then this part where the singer would just look up to God, and the camera was right here, and it just like this beautiful fog and mist in the background. And anyways, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that.
Well, and then it would go into it'd be a morning service, Sunday morning service, with the pastor welcoming.
Yeah, he's talking to the camera.
The congregation. But in the background, I don't think he thought about it so well, because he's saying good morning, but then it's turning to night outside in the window. And I don't know how to feel about that because, me personally, this is just me, because obviously it wasn't live, and I think that's the one important thing, because I remember asking David, like, how come we just don't film from home, at the beginning? Because
Sunday service?
On Sunday service, because I didn't understand, I understand now the importance, because when we woke up on Sunday morning, when his daughter was here, when Aaliyah was here, she's like, I'm confused. Why are we getting up? She said, we woke her up early and she's out, there's no church. Why are you guys getting dressed? Why are you dressing up? Why do you have to dress up? Why do you have to put makeup on? She was really confused. And I said, we still have to go to church. We still have to give, our best and do our best and look our best, and we still have to go. And she's like, but why? She's all, nobody's there. She's all, we still got to give excellence, so we got to go. And she's like, okay. So she didn't quite get it at that moment, right? So throughout the whole moment until we got there, she didn't understand. But I think once she was there, she understood, because, it took me a moment when I had asked David, how come we just don't do it from home? And when he says, I want everybody to feel like they're at home.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that we are here and that we're here for them, and that they still have their home.
Yeah.
And I finally understood that. Yeah. So when I think that's the extra sacrifice and the extra effort that someone makes, and that's our place. That's our job to do that.
Like it could, how easy it would be to pre-record a sermon, even at the church. Like, I'm going to be honest, like we could literally take our cameras. I could record 5 sermons in one day, change my clothes, pre-record it, and do this beautiful editing work and just release it every Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's kind of like, I want to be with you guys. Like, I want to be there live. I want to be there and see your comments that are coming in. The fellowship that happens when people are on live, all those things that happen. And here's the thing, right? Is every church, I'm not saying, here's what I don't want to sound. I don't want to sound like a hater. I'm just simply saying I didn't realize how some of the churches did things until Sunday morning. Yeah. So I realized some of them don't even know how to do a live, like, to the point where they don't even know how, it's all angled, crooked.
I love that, though.
Some don't, apparently, don't even show up Sunday morning. They just pre-record a sermon out of their own living room and just let the editors do it, Some were live, but it was just so polished, like... Then I said this to you, remember? I said this. I said, I could see both sides of it. I said, well, let's say the on the one end, they have all these camera guys and all these people editing, and the editing is perfect, and their mouth matches the video unlike ours, And I'm like, what if these guys that are doing it, guys or girls, whoever's doing it, what if now with churches closed, what if it's their time to shine, their time to say, hey, I got skills, I got 3 cameras, I know how to do this, and maybe like they're students at a college and now they're doing it for their pastor,
like
for
my
their church.
son, my 17-year-old son,
So on that side, I think that's awesome. Yeah. If it's somebody saying, hey, pastor, I have a small camera crew and we can make this service amazing for the people watching. Praise God. I think that's great, because now maybe they've been sitting in the back of the church, never being used, and now they're being used.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the other side, Um, you know, my thing is I do a lot of the technical stuff on Saturday, so I don't have to worry about it on Sunday. We set our camera up. All the little scriptures, all the stuff you see is already preset. I already put it in Saturday. My thing is I want to be hands off once that countdown starts for service. I'd rather do all the work hours before. So that way when we worship, when Sharon is singing, I can sing along with her, even though I'm the only one there. And when I preach and all that, I don't have to have a, it's like, I guess what I'm saying is that I want to preach and worship unhindered.
Yeah.
And one of those services, and I could be wrong, I wasn't there, but it just feels like it was so polished. Like almost as if the worship team I'm pretty sure that worship wasn't live either.
Yeah.
Pre-recorded, and instead of worshiping God singing, it was more like, let's look great for the camera. Let's give a great take, and if it ain't good enough, then let's do that song again, and let's get this perfect and nice and polished, and I don't know,
Well, I just think that, I'm going to go back to the beginning of all of this, because I remember that when this whole lockdown began and started, I really think that this world had gotten so far beyond to a point where things had just blown out of proportion.
This world or church?
Just the church, the whole world, into to where God was just like, I want you guys to go back to the basics. I want you guys just to worship me. I don't want all this extravagance. I don't want all this stuff. He goes, I just want you guys just to come back to me. Come back to your first love, And I think that things had just become a little so overwhelming to where people felt the need to have to go to concerts in order to worship him. Things had become so extravagant just to worship him. And there was so much competition in trying to over exaggerate things. And it's just like, God, Jesus is so simplified, and he's so simple and so humble. And that's and it seems like we had just forgotten a lot of that.
As us, you mean?
I'm talking about in just Christianity
Yeah, okay.
in general, and I think that I think that the world needed to come back to just being simple in the things of God again. And and just seeing that once again, to me, it just brought me back to like, man, we really need to humble ourselves. Like, we really need to really remember how to have a humble heart. For me, none of that. It's like there's always these trends that are trying to be set. Like all of a sudden, here comes the drive-in. Like, let's have a drive-in service, a drive-up service. Or I started to see all of that, and I'm like, man, how's that gonna work? What about all these small churches, that are expected to now have drive-in services and this and that can't have that, I started to see that, and I'm like, man, it just seems like there's always something, that there's trends that are trying to be set over and over. And it's like, why can't we just keep it simple and just worship Jesus?
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes, when you guys, I don't know if you've heard me say this or not, but I've always talked about there's when you have a church, there's two mindsets. One is the kingdom and one is church building. And if you don't know the difference, you get confused. And what happens is, if I just look or watch or fellowship with people that are church builders, it will make me feel like I'm lacking. because then it makes me feel like I need more greeters. I need more excitement. I need more screens when people walk in the church. I need confetti to sprinkle everybody that walks in. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's almost like I've been to theme parks, and it's like it builds this anticipation, and people are selling the fluorescent bands, and you get closer and you can smell the hot dogs and the concession stands, and it's like this excitement that builds up. And like Disneyland, and they do that on purpose. They do that on purpose, right? And unfortunately, what I have learned as a pastor, the ugly side of church building, is that there are pastors that are purposefully studying these things to reconstruct that in a church service. From the moment you park in the parking lot, and it builds up this anticipation, and it builds up to meet the greeters, and you walk in the door and there's screens everywhere and colors everywhere, and like it just like I think that's what you're meaning. It's
it's like so many expectations.
Yeah, so it's like, man, enough already. Enough. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I'm just like, when I see that world as a pastor, it makes me feel like maybe I'm not fit to be a pastor, because I don't fit that mold. And then I feel like the Lord says, no, that's exactly why I called you to pastor. You know, it's like I start to feel like, man, you know, and you know, like the drive-in church, like, don't get me wrong, like our headquarters for Grace International, they've been doing drive-in church in Texas for like 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure they're equipped to do it, though.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. It's a huge campus.
Church, yeah.
It's a huge campus, you know, and I don't know, you know, I just think like I'm not so much saying this is bad, this is good. I'm just discussing it with you guys because we're all family, right? We're just talking about these things.
Yeah.
Just talking, you know, and you know, I just well, yeah, one point that you didn't bring up that you brought up yesterday, she goes, man, I felt like everything in church was exaggerated and built up. So now this thing happens, pandemic starts. So now, boom, all doors are closed, from the little tiny church to the big old fancy ones. So now it put everybody in an even plane. And then this is what you said. And you're like, oh, but then they got to show with their camera crews and this and that and just make it look like it's the Grammy Awards.
Yeah.
You know, and you were kind of heartbroken of that, because it's like, this was supposed to be a time of humbling for the church.
Yeah.
A time of just coming back down to the basics for the church. You know, and then I said, and then I honestly, I was like, yeah, but Sharon, I'm trying to better our production. You know, I remember I said that. And I said, but to be honest, I'm not trying to be fancy. I just...
But
let me finish my thought.
Okay.
I said, but I'm doing it because I know I want to give the people that watch something good. That's all.
And I understood that, and I told you, but I even told you, and I said, but I don't want you to try to do more than what's gonna give better, you know, better sound quality, you know, better vision quality and all of that for our people. I don't want you to, you know, to do so much that what's gonna take away the reality of who we are, you know, in all of that, because
exactly.
I never want that to happen, because I love who we are, you know. The reality is who we are, you know. Like yesterday, I became tired, and here I am today telling you guys, hey guys, I'm sorry, you know, that I could not meet that expectation, but let's keep it real. We're human, and I'm gonna get tired, and I can come to you guys and tell you guys, man, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to do that, but you know, we become tired, you know, the flesh becomes tired. So, but the thing is that, man, you guys are understanding about that, and we're understanding with one another. But that's the truth of it, you know, and that's what I love about this. This is what I love about us, that we can come together and we can be understanding with one another. We can keep it real with one another. And that's what I was trying to tell him. I don't ever want to try to be something that we're not. You know, we always want to give our best. We always want to give with excellence. We want to always try to be exceedingly to the best that we can be. You know, do I want a worship team helping me up there? Yes, because maybe if I had that, you know, I wouldn't be as tired. Do we need help? Yes, we would need a little bit more help, you know, because yesterday I did realize one thing, that the people in those teams in the morning, they had a little bit more help, you know.
What
and
teams?
the ones that we seen in the morning,
Oh.
there was more people there helping them. And that is one thing I did realize. And I did tell them, a lot of those people, they did have up to 10 people there. And I'm like, maybe we need a little bit more help. You know, maybe we can get some more help, you know. It would be really nice because it's just him and I, you know, and Abraham. So it would be nice to have that. Maybe we can get a piano player. Man, pray for that, okay, guys? Maybe we can get somebody to help, another singer. We need to get something, you know? But I don't want to change who we are, because I love who we are as a family. We don't need to be like anybody else.
Yeah. I just want my voice to match the video.
The simple things.
That's all
you know?
I want. My voice to match the video, and me not to look like I'm in a karate movie, or it's like I'm here 1 second and the camera, you know.
But there was definitely the pros and the cons when we did see the drive. One thing that I did notice.
The drive-in church?
The drive-in church. When it went to the drive-in church, we did drive by one or two, and people had to get out of their cars.
It was like 90 degrees.
And people did not keep their cars on because obviously you run your car.
Yeah, you can
overheat your car.
You can't have your car running for a whole service.
Yeah. So people have to get out of their cars, and then they're in the sun. So it gets very uncomfortable. And then you have your kids running around where there's cars. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of pros and cons.
And then I saw one canopy, and people got so tired of the car, there was like 15 people under the canopy.
Under one little canopy.
Like, so I'm like, how does that, if city officials go by, that makes it harder for other churches.
Yeah, and then what you do is you're causing the city to come and cite your church. And what that can do is that puts now more regulations on your church. So you don't want to cause more of a reason to keep the door shut for more longer on your church. So the safest way is to continue to do it the way that it's being done, which is probably this way. Because if it was cooler, then that's a whole different story. But now, because it's the weather's getting hotter, it really doesn't make sense. But you know, hey, everybody, you know, you have your really early services. I think, you know, makes sense. But then a lot of services are after 10 o'clock, 11, 12, and you know, it gets a little bit harder. And then you have children, you have to run your car, and if you have a car that's going to overheat, it makes no sense to keep your car on, because you know you're going to have trouble. So there's a lot of things, guys, you know. But then at the same time, you do get to see other people, but you just get to see them. You really don't get to really have that close fellowship, which is a hard thing. So,
yeah, well, you know, you have two people in the church, too. You have the ones that say, well, I got so much faith, I'm going to just hug on everybody. And then you have other people at the church that you got to respect them, because they're really, you know, maybe they're older, maybe their immune system's compromised, so they're trying to be safe. And then you put both groups into a parking lot. Now you got the guy that has faith and just hugging on everybody, even people that aren't comfortable with that. So it just... You know what I mean? Like, we were having a discussion about, well, is House of Rest going to do that? And I'm like, as of right now, it doesn't.
It doesn't look like something. Well,
It doesn't. It doesn't look like I want to, honestly, because I was very honest with you. After a while, you got it out of me. I said, I actually believe that's a novelty. It's a novelty thing. It's just what everybody wants to do. And once you do it 1 week or 2 weeks, you're sick and tired of it because of all the work it took and all the problems. But now you're stuck in it because now you can't revert back to in online church because you just open your parking lot. Now it's weird if you go backwards, and you just put yourself in a whole mess of problems that maybe you didn't think ahead of for.
Well, and then second of all, we don't have a parking lot big enough for that.
Yeah.
And then we ended up putting a fence around the little parking lot that we do have. So we just got a fence.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the city is closed for us to even ask for a permit for us to even close down the street that's near us. So, you know, it would be a lot of hoops to try to jump to even close down a street near us to be able to do that. So there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I think you said something earlier. You said everybody's trying to find the next thing to do, the next trend. It's like, online was a natural. We've been online already, but we didn't have to jump on that trend because we've been online services. But then it's like now this drive-in church and now this and that. It's like you say right there in Psalm 46:10, God says, man, be still. Know that I am God. Just be still. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You know what I mean? And be still. Like I saw somebody on Facebook today, and well, he didn't mean it in a bad way, but he just said, so aside from, how did he say it? Aside from the drive-in church and the online church, what are you doing to reach people for Jesus? And I probably put an attitude to it that he didn't say it in. But I will say this, right? When I first accepted the Lord in Sacramento County Jail, I was in an active, functioning gang pod. And I gave Bible studies every day. And because it was a county jail, there was people coming in and out all the time. People from drunk driving, people that had to serve 30 days, 20 days, 10 days, 40 days. It was a constant cycling of people. So I was busy for the gospel and just, sharing Jesus with everyone. And then when after a year and a half of that, I go to Santa Rita, they put me in solitary, and I'm mad at God. I'm like, really, God? You're going to put me in here all alone? Like, how am I supposed to reach people? Why'd you put me in this situation? I want to be in general population. Why'd you put me in this situation? And God was like, will you just shut up? Well, he didn't say that, but he's like, you're so busy trying to help anybody else that your roots are so shallow. Well, how about you spend some time to dig your roots deep? What if this is a time, instead of trying to fix the world, because you can't fix the world if you aren't fixed first. How about we spend this time to get our roots deep? How about that? Because you know what? When the world comes back, it's going to be as fast as it always was. So what if this is a time to just get our roots deep?
Yeah. I see that a lot. I see a lot of people who go back and forth. It's crazy. I see people that go back and forth onto our site, on our YouTube channel, and go back and forth to different channels, where they get fed a lot of negativity, and then they jump back over here. And then they go back over there and they get fed stuff. And then they come back over here. And I'm just kind of like, why do you let people feed negativity into you? And it's crazy. But here's the thing. If you allow an ear to something, then you're letting that seed be planted into your life. What are you allowing your ear to be open to? Stop letting people plant seeds of doubt, plant seeds of negativity, plant seeds of anything. Stop. Stop putting yourself out there. Just stay still and do what you need to do so that God can do what he needs to do in your life. Sometimes, it's inevitable to be put into certain situations, but sometimes we put ourselves into situations.
Yeah.
We go, and it's like, that, like that saying, like, you're asking for it. Yes, we ask for things because we put ourselves in situations when we can keep ourselves from certain situations. And it's like, we need to sometimes just stay away from certain circumstances, and you know what, and keep ourselves put, so that God can be able to move in our lives the way he wants to move in our lives. If we keep trying to go and put ourselves under certain things and everything, then how can he move in our lives when we're constantly moving?
You know, people that if you're athletic or you lift weights or whatever, you know this. Your muscles do not grow while you're at the gym. Your muscles grow when you go to the gym and your body comes home and you rest. That's when growth comes. So if we're always working out, when do we rest to grow? What if this is a time to rest and grow?
Yeah.
You know, and we don't have to go over the top with stuff. You know, we don't have to be exaggerated. We don't have to try to save the world. Man, sometimes I think Christians watch too many Marvel movies, too much Spider-Man, too much something. Yeah, I'm not trying to act like that. I'm not trying to save the world. You know, and it's like, calm down. You know, the world is still going to spin. People are still going to get saved. People are still going to get healed. People are still going to get set free. You know, you don't have to do more than what you're supposed to do, I guess. You know, and that's it. You know, and I don't even know what we're going to call this video. We're just talking about online church, drive-in church, some of the reasons behind it. You know, what are the motives behind? No, it's like, I love technology. There's nothing wrong with having multiple cameras and this and that, but what's the motive behind it? You know, is it to bring the people, you know, to a closer relationship with the Lord? I don't know. You know, only them and God know that. Amen. Really, that's what it comes down to. Only them and God know that. You know, and but I just pray that all the churches, all of us, whether it's one camera on a phone that we don't know how to turn it right, or multiple cameras with the beautiful sound system and high definition, you know, I just hope we learn something from this.
All of us.
Is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter ultimately if God is not in it. We can have a place look so holy and the Holy Spirit not even be there.
Yeah.
Or we could have a place that's so run down and the presence of God is so powerful you can't even stand.
Amen.
God is no respecter of men. Meaning, what does that mean? It says in the Bible, it means he don't respect you any more or less if you're rich or poor. So if God has no respect, you know, no respecter of men, what makes you think he respects our buildings? Whether you're a little tiny country church or the biggest church in town. God's like, I don't judge by those things. I judge by the heart and the spirit of the people in it.
Yes.
And I guess that's what we're trying to say, is I just pray for pastors, you know, do the best you can during this time. Do the best with what you have.
Amen.
And you don't have to compete with that big church down the block. Because you know what?
We don't. No,
we'll never win.
No.
We'll never we won't do it.
Yes. And overexerting yourself, all you're going to do is, you know, do your own physical self-harm by trying to outdo and do all of that. And you don't need to do that. Jesus loves you for all that you're giving him, you know, and for what you're doing. Just always do with excellence and just give him all that you have, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just give with excellence. with the little that you have. And that's all you have to do. That's all he wants from you. That's all he wants.
All right, guys.
We love you guys, and
God bless you.
And thank you for being understanding about yesterday.
Maybe they're not being understanding, though.
Yeah, they are. They're understanding.
How do you know, though? You can't tell by looking at the little
Because
camera.
I know my family.
Oh.
I know my family.
Okay.
And when you know your family, you know that you know that you know. Right, you guys?
Órale.
All right. All right.
Bye.
See you later. Love you guys.